Why you should be building your life insurance agency and developing your sales team and your leaders to write 40K a month on specific lead types. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what our top clients are doing and what industry leaders are doing to help craft and create amazing sales teams, specifically in the life insurance space. My name is Trey. I'm the owner of Agent Lead Lab. In the past 3.5, almost 4 years now, we've been helping over 550 agents issue pay $40,000 per month. And I make these YouTube videos really just to kind of show you and bring you into the thoughts and the minds of those agents, what they're doing that makes them different, what type of leads they're running, their strategies, etc. So in this video, it's going to be nonetheless. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to hop right in, but I want to really talk about something that's super important is building sales teams. Now, most times I think people underestimate the value in a sales team having a culture, okay? So culture is very, very huge. And by the way, you all, sorry for having this video a little bit later. I may switch up the times when I do these. Not that it matters to you guys when you're watching it, but this is like kind of later in the evening. So this will be kind of a little bit short, but I'm going to go into kind of some high level stuff that I think is important. So culture of a sales team is super important. What that means is how you dial, right? Which is essentially, slash how you work leads. What you say when you when you close, apologize, and then follow up. To me, this identifies it, right? So how you dial, how you work leads, that's like the work ethic, right? That's the input aspect, right? What you say, that's the skill aspect. So you can dial and work leads every day and you'll get a sale. What you say is when that person picks up the phone, how do you converse with them? When you close, right? It's just like learning how to like overcome objections, which typically you want to do at the beginning, but they tie together. Building value, right? And then being able to assess value. These are two different things, okay? And then follow up, which is essentially referrals and new what I'll call touch points, okay? So this is important for doing 40K, but it's also important in terms of the leads because every lead, you need to work differently with this, okay? So every lead needs to have these 4 components and they differ, okay? Number 1, you gotta know how to dial work leads. That's the input. So if you have final expense, or as you guys know, I like to say demographic, which is 50 or 40 to about 85, versus you've got homeowners, you got specialty niche, which is essentially just like general life insurance for specific demographic or job type. So this is going to be your veterans. This is going to be people that are doing like truckers. This is going to be, etc. Okay. Then you've got more like retirement / financial growth based. Okay. This is going to be your annuity. This is going to be your IUL / whole life. This is going to be your premium financing, right? These are all different ways to target. So how you call and dial these leads is different, and it establishes a culture. If you have hyper aggressive agents who don't want to spend a lot of money, then you're more of like a final expense type of agency. Every agent that comes in needs to know how to work leads properly. If they don't, you're setting them up for failure. Homeowners, same thing. You need to know when to call. I just got off a call with a guy today. He was like, yeah, man, I was telling him about my story. He ended up buying some leads. I was in the process of buying leads. And essentially, when we were conversing, he was like, man, tell me a little about your story, how you got in. I was like, yeah, man, I played in the NFL, went through the whole thing. And he was like, well, you were doing 30, 40K a month. I'm like, yeah. He's like, what were you doing? And I walked through him. One of the things he had said during my call was, yeah, man, I don't call people after 6:30. Sorry, 6 o'clock. I was like, that's interesting. You're missing out on a lot of money. He was like, what do you mean? So I walked him through. So let me give you an example. I'm going to give you myself. All right. So I was doing $15,000 a month, right? Back in, what was it? Summer of 2020, I want to say, or 2021. Yeah, 2021. I apologize. Right. And when I was doing that 15,000, here's what I was doing. So I was booking half apps. Okay. I was finishing dialing by 6:30 at the latest, right? I was not closing with value. You see the things I said up here, right? How you work leads, what you say when you close, okay? Follow-up referrals, no referrals, okay? So once again, we're gonna assess what these things are, right? This is input. This is also input. This is skill. There's also skill, okay? And then this is just input. None of these things are things that we cannot control. They're all things that we can control. And I'm gonna walk through each of these. Then I was doing 30 to 40K per month. So I doubled in fall of 2021. This is 2021, actually, not 2020. 2021. So I started booking 30 apps a week. Tie downs and firm apps. Okay, I'm gonna talk about this. I started finishing dialing by, finishing dialing by 7 p.m. I didn't even put this in here. Start dialing at 9 a.m. Sometimes 10 a.m. Okay, start dialing. I'm gonna raise it. Start dialing at 7:30 a.m. local time. Right, finish dialing by 8 p.m. local time. Right, closing with value and 3 tiers. Okay, pitching multiple scenarios and assigning numerical value from beginning. Okay, and then getting other family members. You're probably like, okay, what exactly does this mean? Let me walk through what all these mean so we're like super on the same page and clear about what this looks like, okay? So let's talk about this. If you're saying that you are here, you're doing 15K, and you're like, Trey, how do I get to 20? And I don't really want to spend any more. You can literally do these tangible things. Now, this is a culture team. The reason why I'm using this is the team I was a part of. I worked at Family First Life. In that calendar year, we had the highest average annual premium in the entire company per agent. It was like $1,800, something absolutely insane. People were like, yo, how'd you do that? Well, first of all, we were being taught by a savage. We learned a lot about sales. We understood how to provide value, and we had a blueprint. It was like, dude, you're going to book 30 appointments a week, right? Half of them aren't going to show. You're going to close half of those people. That's like worst case scenario, okay? There's 15 people that show. If you close 8 of them, the average annual premium is 8K. You do 8 times, you know what I mean? Like, that's if you do 30. Now, if you can get more than half of those people to show, if you get true 30 appointments and you can get 20 or 25 in the show and you still close half, you're looking at making 10 to 12K a week, which then means you make 40K a month. It's super simple when you know the numbers and you just go. So let me talk about what I was doing, right? And then what I started doing, okay? And this is super important because this ties in with leads, because I was doing something different with each lead, right? It was just, if I was still working now, I would do something different with each lead. So let's start here with what I was doing. So we're gonna make this yellow. This is what I was doing, okay? So back in the summer of 2021, I would consider myself part-time. To me, what I'm about to explain to you is very part-time-ish, even if you are full-time, because you're not really doing everything you need to do. I started my first month, I wrote 10K. And this is exactly what I did. I was booking half appointments, right? And what that means is, let's say I call John. I'm like, hey, John, this is Trey, blah, blah, stay regulated. I was doing all that stuff, and I was doing in-person and virtual. So like, I'm like, hey, just confirm some information. Are you currently single, married, divorced, or widow? Married, whoop. I'm going through the whole 9. Then I booked the appointment. Now, when I was booking it, they were like, yeah, 5 o'clock on Wednesday works. I was like, okay, cool, sounds good. I put you down for 5. I'll talk to you then. Boom, end the call. That's not how you do it. I'm going to go through what I was doing. That's what I was booking appointments because they told me you had to get 30 a week to make 40K. So I'm a competitor, but I was competing with myself to do checklist activities rather than actually doing the activity. It wasn't until my second month, one of my homies named Zeb, dog, shout out to Zeb if you're watching this, bro, came in first month, wrote 50K. I'm I'm like, bro, what? This dude came in running old leads, made 50K. I was like, bro, when they put him on this the spotlight and he broke down, he was like, this is my schedule, this is exactly what I do. This is how I call. And I'm like, oh, so you're actually doing the things you're supposed to do. You're really booking appointments, right? So we'll get to appointments. Then dialing. I started dialing at 9 or 10 a.m. Now, granted, I was playing football, but I wasn't getting up early enough to finish training. I was like, oh, I'll train at 7, 8. I'll take a shower. I'll start dialing 9, 10. I mean, it was honestly closer to 10. I'll dial from 10 to 12. I'll take a break. I'll dial from 12:30 to 2. I'll take a break. Then I'll dial from like 4 to 6. So I wasn't really able to even get 15 solid appointments, right? That's 15 solid appointments 2 times a week. So dial Monday, book Tuesday, Wednesday, dial Thursday, book Friday, Saturday. But I was getting like 15 appointments a week, closing half of those people were showing up. Then I was closing half of that. So I was closing like 3 or 4 deals, which is then you average premium $1,000, 3 times 3 is, and I was doing like 12 to 15K every month. I did that for like 2 or 3 months. So I'm watching other people doing it the right way, but I'm dialing at, starting at 9, 10, and I'm finishing at 6:30. I'm like, I don't want to dial. And the reason, once again, I'm bringing this up is because the gentleman I spoke to this evening, he brought the same thing up. And I was like, yo, I'm explaining this to him. Closing with value. So the way I used to close, right, is really simple. I used to be like, hey, it's 10,000, it's 15,000, it's 20,000. Or if it was final expense. If it was mortgage, I'd be like, yeah, it's 500,000, it's 650,000, it's 800,000. I'd be like, which one do you want? And they're like, oh, I'll just take 500. And there was like no value associated with it. I'm gonna explain the difference here in a second, right? So I was just pitching numbers. Like, yeah, 10,000 for your funeral, 15,000 for cremation, 15,000 for burial, and then 20,000 is burial. Like nothing associated. The pitch had no value. Like I was literally just like, yeah, this is why you need it. Cool. You want to protect your family. Cool. And I'm closing them. And I'd be mad, like I'm not smacking things out the park. I'm not closing as many. So it was no value. It was just like, yeah, of course I filled it out because I want life insurance. It's like, duh. That's why I filled it out. You're not closing them or anything. Then it was no referrals. Like I'd finish, I'm out the crib. Or I'm done off the call. Like no like follow up, no like even more tie downs, none of that. So that's what I was doing when I was doing 15. Now, fast forward, when I started doing 30 to 40, it was literally nothing else except for me just learning these few things. Okay. So, number one, I started booking 30 appointments a week. Now, you're like, yo, Trey, what do you mean 30 appointments a week? Okay. So, here's what it looks like. Okay. In order to book 30 appointments a week, this is what you would do. So, you dial Monday. Okay. You book 15 apps between Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, when I say book 50 apps, that means you can do 7 and 8, right? You could do 8 and 7. You could do 9 or whatever, and you would book the slot. So I would book from typically 9 a.m., sometimes 8, but I'd go like 9 a.m. to about 8 p.m. That's how I would do it. So I'd have slots. So if you book every hour on the hour, that's 10. 9 to 10 is 10. 10 to 11 is 12. Or 9 to 10 is 1. 10 to 11 is 2. 11 to 12 is 3. 12 to 1 is 4. 1 to 2 is 5. 2 to 3 is 6. 3 to 4 is 7. 4 to 5 is 8. Now, it typically didn't work like that because you'd have breaks, right? So what I started doing is I would book like 9, 10, 11, and then like a 12, and I'd break at like 1 and 2 because a lot of people just wouldn't show up. I'd break like 3, 4, 5. And then what I would do is I would, go and do the other appointments. Now, here's the thing. These are 8 and 7 solid appointments. So maybe I had a solid 8, a solid 9, a solid 10, an iffy 11, an iffy 12. I didn't count those. So I really had like 20-something apps, right? So I wouldn't count those iffy ones. I had to count 8 tie downs. We're going to get into tie down here in a second. So let's say I book for, my calendar would look like this. So let's say it's a Tuesday. This is exactly what my calendar would look like. So it'd be slot range. So it'd be like this. It'd be 9 a.m. I'd have a 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and then maybe a 12 p.m. Okay? That'd be my morning. Then I have like a 3 p.m. and a 4 p.m. That'd be my afternoon. That's 6. And then I'd have like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., then maybe 8 p.m. That'd be my evening. That would be how I would do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That'd be my 8. Now, here's the thing. All those other gaps, what am I doing? I'm booking filler apps. Okay? So in between here, I have some filler apps. So a filler app would be at like 1 and 2 p.m. And I would schedule these like pseudo door knocks or like pseudo apps while I was dialing. Now, the cool thing about dialing is I didn't really schedule appointments when I do virtual. I just close them, or I'd schedule like kind of soft callbacks because people will kind of duck you. You got to get them there. But if I'm in person, this is what I would do. And if it's virtual, like if I was doing IULs, this is how I would do it now too. Or if I was doing mortgage, since it's becoming like more pertinent to do things virtually, I would have done that. So I'd have filler apps. This would be like soft door knocks. People that were like, yeah, call me back here. I would put those down, and on my sheet, I would just write the thing in, but I wouldn't count it as an appointment. It'd be a filler. So I would be like, let's say I'm in that area, I would try to schedule people around there, and then I would look for zip codes and try to find people that were local, and then I would just go door knock them. Or if I was calling, I'd be like, yeah, these like 3 or 4 people told me to call them between 1 and 2, so I'm just gonna hit them up. So I'd hit them up, and it wasn't like an appointment, but I would get sales out of that. I'd door knock people. I'd smack policies out the park, because you're like, everybody's not going to show up. Everybody's not going to be there. So you have to have like people to fill. So let's say all my morning people just didn't show up. Well, I'm door knocking and I'm following up, setting more appointments. I'm hopping in the car. I'm dialing. Activity. Right? I do the same thing in the afternoon. So let's say at 3 and 4, but then I'd also have I'd have like a 5 p.m. I'd have like a 5:30. These are people that are like soft apps that I can go and call or talk to throughout the day. If I'm virtual, I have these people that were like, yeah, call me back. So on my calendar, I'd have like this person, this person, this person. It would just be a list of people that'd be on my calendar. They'd be stacked. It would look unorganized, but it wasn't, because I knew like, okay, I'd color code these people. All the people that are in green, they're solid appointments. Everybody that's yellow is like shaky. And then everybody that's blue, right, I'd have them as like just callbacks or like filler leads that, they picked up at this time. So I'd have it color coded. Right. And then evening would be evening. And then I would do the same thing. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to do it on Wednesday. I'd have the same thing or like a variation of that. And sometimes I'd go for 15. And then once I got to my 15, if it was like Monday, I would stop dialing at 8. So if I got to 15, I'd try to get to like 20, 22, like solid apps. Because I knew if I booked more apps, I'd have a 40, 50K month, because it's just numbers at the end of the day. Right. Now you talk about tie downs. Now this is the thing. I think tie downs don't get enough credit. People like to say, well, the leads didn't show up. It's like, dude, look, bro, if somebody doesn't show up to a meeting, there's one of two things. That person genuinely didn't care. And if they genuinely didn't care, you probably didn't do a good enough job communicating with them on the front end. You should know if somebody's going to show, or at least have some relative understanding. If a person just completely ghosts you, you just read the room wrong. They really didn't want the thing that you were offering them. Right. And at the end of the day, like, I know even now with agents, like if I book certain people, I know they're not going to show. And it's okay. My expectations are really, really low. And if they don't, like, that's fine. But I'm not pressed about it because I went into it. The problem is when you don't understand what a real tie down is, you don't know. So a lot of people, I booked 5 appointments. It's like, okay, if you're booking appointments and people aren't showing, that's a problem. That means you're not framing the call properly. You're telling them like, oh yeah, I'm available at 5. Just call me back then. Whoa. I'm the one busy. I called you. So I'm controlling the narrative. Hey, I don't have a 5 out of 5:15, right? And then I have a 5:30 after. So it's going to be quick, but I just want to make sure like that I can squeeze you in. So let me kind of check my calendar and make sure, okay, cool. So you said 5:15, right? I don't have a 5, but I can do 5:15. So any reason that wouldn't work for you? Cool. So I'm going to pencil you in. Make sure you pencil me in, because I'll be running from appointment to appointment, right? And then you make them feel like they're doing you a favor by being there. If you're just like, yeah, 5 o'clock works, it's like, there's no value there. And they don't value your time, and they're not going to value time, and they're not going to show up. Just like if you call somebody and they're in the car, like that's not an appointment. Like if you call somebody and they're in the car, do not count that as an appointment. That's not an appointment. Don't be upset when they don't show. You're not booking a solid appointment. And it wasn't until I learned that, like, you don't count those. Those don't count. You need 7 to 8 every day, solid appointments. You want to make 40, 50K, you need 7 to 8 solid appointments across whatever leads that you're running. So that way you can have that consistency, so you know you're going to hit your targets. If you don't have that, and tie downs are simple. It's, hey, Trey, yeah, cool. So 4 o'clock or 4:30. Well, 4:30 works. Perfect. Now I got you down at 4:30. I'm going to be running from appointments. I have a few other people that are kind of around there. Was there any reason that like 4:30 just wouldn't work? You got any doctor's appointments, meetings, whatever? No, perfect. Sounds good. So go ahead. I'm gonna write this down on my end. Grab pen and paper. I'm gonna give you some important information. What is it? Yeah, I'm just gonna give you some important information. Once you get to your pen and paper, I'll let you know exactly what it is. It's gonna be my information. So okay, I need you to write my name down. It's TRE, and it's TARPLEY. Right? That's P as in Paul, LEY. Perfect. Got you. You got that down? Yes. Okay, cool. So my license number is whoop de whoop. Perfect. Right? And I have it down at 4:30. Cool. Now, just so you're clear, there's gonna be a few things that happen. You're gonna get a notification right through your email. I'm gonna text you. Now I'm gonna text you your name. Make sure you save it. This is a tie down. This is all. I'm not getting off the phone. I'm constantly getting. You're meeting with me. This is my name. This is who I am. You remember. You want this. Cool. Do you have a wife or anybody else that needs to be there? Fine. Yeah. What time do they get off? 6. Cool. So based off what you said, then let's move this to 6:30. Right? Because I do have a 6:45, but I can squeeze you into 6:30 because I want to make sure that your wife's on the phone. Oh, no, I need to do it by myself. Hey, no, totally understand. Typically it gets a little bit harder. So it's a little bit easier on my end and your end. So you don't have to regurgitate information. A lot of things just get confused. I can make sure both of those things are answered. So that way we can kind of figure out if this is going to be a good fit for you and make sure, I'm assuming that that's why you want to get it. You want to protect your family. So I don't want to waste your time. So we'll do 6:30, right? Go ahead and write that down. Then at the very end of the call, guess what you say? You go through all that. Hey, it's my name. It's my, you're tying it down. You're just asking question after question after question. And just, hey, when it works, this does work. This is the right time. Then after the end, you say, hey, actually, no, my fault. I forgot. What time did we say we were going to do? Was it 2:30? No, it was 6:30. Perfect. If they don't remember, problem, red alert, don't move forward. Okay, yeah, cool. So you wrote it on your end. Cool. Like, is that time not work? Tie down, tie down, tie down. It feels overkill. And it may feel like it's overkill, but you still should do it. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to book these pseudo appointments, spend your whole day waiting on apps when you could be calling more people. It's the benefit of doing virtual. But you had to do that when you're in person because you don't want to drive in your car 30 minutes across town for the person to not be home. See, unfortunately, now because of virtual, people get lazy. They're like, oh, just blame it on the leads. It's like, no, bro, you drove all the way across town. They didn't show up because you didn't do a good enough job tying it down. And you'll learn that soon enough, like I did. When you start driving around and wasting gas, wasting time, when you could have been calling other people, right? So time is of the essence. That's a tie down. Now, starting dialing. Most people make the excuse like, oh, I don't want to call people now. I was calling people at 7:30. I don't think that was actually legally right. I don't even think I should have been doing that, truthfully. So, forgive me. I didn't know. Genuinely, I didn't know. I didn't know you couldn't do that. I just thought it was like, you just don't call people when they want to be called. I used to get a lot, like between 7:30 and 9, I'd book half my appointments, to be transparent. If I book 6 appointments for the day, I'd probably book 3 to 4 in that morning, right? If I booked, or not 6 appointments, I apologize. If I booked 6 appointments for that day in that specific area, so let's say it was Monday, I booked 6 for Tuesday, I'd book probably 4 of them in that first slot, if not more. And then I'd book the rest of them through the day. I'd probably book another 4 or 5 throughout the day. So from like 9 to like 4, I'd book another 4 or 5, and then like solid appointments, not fillers. And then from like 6 to 8, I'd book another 5 or 6, and then I'd be at my about 15 for the 2 days. And once again, the benefit of that is when you start early, especially if you're really trying to rock high premiums, you're hitting like working class. If you're calling people in the middle of the day and they're just picking up willy nilly, that's really not the lead you need to be running. Which goes back to what I was saying is like this is all based on like what you're doing. I go back every year and talk about how do you work and dial leads, right? It's just really simple. Like you got to understand this is the first thing, right? We're gonna get into what do you say is skill next. So that's the first thing. Then it's closing at different values. Okay. Now my thing that is super, super important is that, and the dialing thing is simple, guys. You start early, you get the working class. You end late, you get the working class. You only call at your convenience, which is during the middle of the day. You get the people that are going to be around during convenience, banged up, Social Security, disability, like homeowners and like people that got bread. They got things to do. They got kids. They're taking them places. They're not just going to be readily available at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. Like, and if they are, they're probably going to hang up because they're like doing something with their kids. You got to call them 7 o'clock, right, when they're chilling or whatever, or like 7:57 for me right now. Right, you got to call people because they're done with their day and they're like, oh yeah, cool, I'm ready to talk. Otherwise, you call me during the middle of the day, I'm not picking up. So that's that. Closing value with 3 tiers. I've went over this before, but this is super important. Depending on your lead type, I don't care what lead you're running. If you're not closing based off of a 3-tier value system, which is really pitching multiple scenarios, so I kind of should have flipped these. But if you're not closing based on that, what are you doing? I won't waste this whole video going over it, but I will touch on a few key points. Number 1 is always going to be the main focus of the lead. Okay, so what is this? Main focus of the lead. And maybe I shouldn't have highlighted this green now that I think about it, because it's probably harder for you guys to see, so I apologize. Okay, main focus of the lead. All right, that's going to be the lead type preference. Essentially, main pain point of them opting in. What do you mean? Okay, so it's like final expense. It's obviously burial, cremation, right? Coverage, right? If it's mortgage, it's their mortgage, loan, balance, asset, or equity. Okay. If it's IUL, it's leveraging life insurance for retirement. Okay. If it's annuity, right? If it's specialty, it's just general life, right? General life, which is really going to be the next three that I explained. Okay. The next thing, so that's the main focus of the lead. The next thing is the secondary focus, which is typically what we call income replacement. Okay. And then the third focus is the other of the two. You're probably like, what does that mean? That means that if you're going to do final expense, then that's the first priority. So you build value in that. What does it look like when you die, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, the secondary focus, okay, what does it look like you die? What is your lifestyle like now? What's your life going to be for the people when you leave? That's replacing your income. Because when you die, we don't just cover the funeral. That's one day. We cover the funeral and the lifestyle change. Why would you only get life insurance for just you dying? That makes no sense. Get life insurance for when you die and the lifestyle change that happens. The third thing, okay, your lifestyle changes. We get income. What else do you have? Do you have rent? Do you have mortgage? We need to cover that too. Lifestyle change is one thing. Rent and mortgage is another. That's final expense. If it's mortgage, it's reverse. Now you cover your mortgage, your assets. Cool. If you die, what's the next thing? Funeral. You gotta that's the first immediate thing. The last thing is going to be your income, right? If it's annuity or IUL, it's life insurance for retirement. What's the second thing? Well, when you have that life insurance for retirement, if you pass away, what are some additional benefits? You cover your burial. You shouldn't use the money that you're getting for retirement for your burial. Why don't you get both? Cool. Why don't you cover your mortgage? Why don't you get because the income replacement is essentially this. That's what this is. You're giving yourself more income. So the three, they never change. It's always one of these. You're covering your assets, you're covering your final expenses, or you're giving yourself income replacement, which in the case of IUL and annuity is literally income replacement. You're just paying to get more income for the future. That's replacing your income that you would be making actively with something that's being created passively or semi-passively. The specialty list is actually reverse. You're starting with covering this a specific value that a specific pain point that they have. It's not inherent in the lead. It's, hey, John, blah, 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 you're a veteran. Like, what do you need this for? Well, I need it for then you just assign it. It's still the same thing. That's why people think that they write a lot. Yes, they have better jobs, etc. But no, it's because you can assign value. It's not inherent in the lead. So most people don't understand this. If you can teach your team how to do this, you start closing more. That's the same thing with pitching multiple scenarios. So if I can pitch these scenarios of what happens, okay, what happens when you lose your home and your asset? Okay, this is what happens. Okay, so after that happens, we need to replace your income, right? It's like, yeah, so like, what does it look like when you're gone and you don't have an extra $3,000 per month? Now, we paid the house off, but you still don't have an extra $3,000. Your lifestyle changes. That's not the close. That's building value at the beginning. Because when you go to close, you have to assess it gold, silver, bronze, or bronze, silver, gold, or, basic, whatever you want to call them. Like, once again, what I was doing was I was just closing people on 10K, 20K, 15K. No value. At the beginning of the call, I wasn't doing it. On the close, I wasn't doing it. What it should look like is, right, when you go here, you say it like this. So when you close, what you should really do is you'd be like 10K. Here's what $10,000 does. Okay, it's going to cover the final expenses. That's it. Burial, cremation, etc. Cool. Here's what 15,000 does, right? What 15K does. It's going to cover final expense, okay? And it's going to provide, 5 months of supplemental income. You're like, Trey, how'd you come up with that? $1,000 a month times 5. You can just make stuff up as long as it makes sense to them and it is logical, which is giving somebody an extra $1,000 a month for people that are on Social Security making $800 a month is huge. Now, granted, I wouldn't do 10K. I would do like 15K, right? Or I would do 10K and then I'd do like maybe 18K and I'd figure out what the person that was passing away is making. If they're making $2,000 a month, then I say, hey, you're gonna get 6 months of right. So instead of you doing that, I do 18K, right? And then I say, hey, provide 6 months of supplemental income, which is the $2,000 that Johnny, is making. It's going to go back to you, Susan. Okay. So that's what that does. And then I'd be like, yo, the 25K pack or like the 27K pack or the 28K pack, whatever. Right. And you say, here's what 28,000 does. Okay. It's going to cover FEX. It's going to provide 6 months of supplemental income. And then it's also going to give you, let's say the mortgage is 2,000 a month or the rent is 2,000 a month. It doesn't matter if it's a mortgage or rent, right? You're going to say it's going to cover house payments, right? For 6 months, okay? Or 5 months, sorry, for 5 months. So now you're going to say, hey, John, which of these packages makes the most sense for you? I'm not just saying 10, 15, 20 or like 20, 30, 40. I'm saying 10, here's what it does. So $10,000 is going to make sure your funeral's taken care of, John. 18 grand is going to be funeral plus 6 months for Susan to live her lifestyle without you and keep it the same. 28 is basically you're taken care of, the house is taken care of. She can think and be in peace while you're now gone. And which one makes more sense for you? Then I have the numbers. It don't even matter about the price at this point. I'm just trying to figure out which one. So out of these two, like which one makes most sense for you? They're like, okay, cool. I'm like, all right, so this cost, whatever. And there's different ways you could pitch it. You could say the price, you could just pitch it. And what I would do is I would pitch this before I say the price. So when I used to do it, I used to pitch it at the end. I pitch it at the beginning. I'm like, okay, so we know we at least the most we want to look for is like 28K, right? We're gonna go through and kind of like figure. Then I go through MIB, then I pitch prices. Because now it's like, oh, I really, really want this. If they can't get it, they feel like they're losing something, but they still are like, yo, I need it. Because you agree at the beginning, hey, John, we have to at least get $10,000 of coverage, right? They're like, yes. So you're making a sale. Now you're increasing your sales rate. Now it's just what fits their budget. And then they're more indebted to you because they're like, man, can I upgrade? You're like, yeah, you can, right? And that is what I'm saying about here, pitching multiple scenarios from the beginning. This is a gem, man. If you're not doing it, and I'm just using this for like final expense. This is the same thing for IUL. It's the same thing for mortgage. It's the same thing for niche. It doesn't change. But you have to build your team. That's the purpose of this. I was built on my team to do 30 to 40K every month as an agent because this is all I knew. So if you are an agency owner or an agent trying to build your business or your agency, you should be teaching your people to sell like this. Not like this, but something along these lines. Pitching value, calling and dialing. I don't know what your style is. AI, I don't care. That's how you create the sales culture that ties in with the leads. Right? Because now you know, like, okay, we run these leads. This is what we say. This is what we sell. All we were trying to do to get 40K and to get $1 million a month is create predictability. I spend this much, I get this many leads, we say this, we say that, we close. That's how you build a big agency. That's how you grow. It's just predictable. I know input, output, input, output. You want to get things as close to input, output without other variables as you can. Now, you can't guarantee that all the time. Right? And the last one is getting family members. This is pretty straightforward. I wasn't the greatest at this, I'm not going to lie, but this was just like, hey, do you have anybody else who you think would need to make sure that not only their payments are taken care of or their filing expenses taken care of, but also, their assets are taken care of or whatever, right? And that is essentially, guys, like a quick rundown of how you create a sales team that has an amazing culture. My bad, John. I thought it was somebody outside. Has an amazing culture, right? Like we already went through what you say, when you close, right? Overcoming objections. At this point, it's not really any objections. It's just like which one works. And then follow up, new touch points. New touch points just basically means when you meet somebody, you meet a person to meet a person. So I meet you, I close you, but then you introduce me to the next person. So we're constantly always learning and figuring out exactly what we need to say, how we need to say it, and what it looks like. Because now when I meet the next person, I'm like, yeah, this is what we did. This is how it worked. This is the best way for you to be able to get Oh, I keep looking. I'm sorry. Somebody outside. This is the best way for you to be able to get more clients, right? So I hope that makes sense. Please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. I know it's late, y'all. Or late for me. I gotta hop off here. I'll be back tomorrow. I may be doing evening shift. I may do middle of the day. I still haven't figured it out. Um, but I wanted to share this because literally it was a gentleman, talked to him. He was a referral. We were chopping. He was like, yeah, man, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he said 6:30. And I'm like, dude, let me put you on some game about like, that's hurting you. You may not think it's hurting you, but it's hurting you, right? And if you're trying to build a team, you need to have a culture. All of my successful clients, they have a culture. If you're interested in seeing like how this could potentially work with you for you, I want to keep it really simple. If you're an individual agent, you're doing less than 40K, then I would buy our leads. You're doing more than 40K and you don't want to build a team, you can also do our leads. But if you're an agency owner, right, and you do want to partner up with us, you want me to break this down for your agency, figure out where you're at, what you're looking to do, how you can grow, we can walk you through the whole blueprint. Okay. It's called our Apex package. It's really simple. Package starts no less than $5,000 for you to get started. I'm just letting you know. So if you don't have 5K, don't even book the call. Right. I don't want to waste your time. Be honest. You need to have 5K. You need to be willing to invest at least 5K. Right. You also need to have an agency that's doing 250,000 plus. You need to have three sales reps who are doing over 20K. If you don't have any of those things, just don't book. Not trying to be rude. Go buy our leads. I would love for you to buy our leads. Right? That's agentleadlab.com, right? And then you can go to book a call. Book an Apex call. It's going to have a ton of questions. If you're not interested, don't fill it out. Don't, like, you already know what the price is relatively. You got to at least be able to invest 5K. Those numbers can change, etc. But like, if you don't have at least 5K to invest, just don't book. And I'm not trying to be rude. Just being honest, right? I want you guys to continue to get free game. But if you want leads and you're like, dude, I don't even need all that. I just want leads. Let's do it. Leadlabcrm.com. We got tons of leads. Probably when you watch this, we'll have even more. Right? We got mortgage, IUL, veteran. We're coming out with new ones. We're always testing. We got transfers. We got so many things. I plan on taking over the game. Hung up the football thing, so now I'm kind of really locked in on making sure we grow this thing as aggressively as we can. And building up my business as well. So as always, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. I hope these videos help. If you have questions, please drop them below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.